And that's a big thing nobody wants to talk about is leadership, money, how to get gigs. A lot of people don't want to talk about that stuff.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm trying to make these videos. Being a band leader is a rewarding but tough thing, because when you're a band leader, you get to make all the decisions on stage, you get to call the shots, or at least make the final decisions on stage and off stage, and those are all fun, rewarding things, but being a band leader puts your business skills and your business etiquette to the ultimate test. Now, instead of just booking yourself and having to represent yourself, you have to book 6 people and represent all of them. So I don't have as much experience as a band leader. So let's see what the professionals have to say, starting with Garland Griffin.
What goes into being a band leader?
Well, everything. The band leader it's a tough job. You know, you gotta balance personalities in the band. You've got to schedule. You have to smoosh people. You have to talk to everyone. Always be up. You know what I mean? You have to have it's not easy. It's a hard job to do, but it gets easier as you go along because people know what to expect from you. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's important to know that they're going to get what they're going to get, and you got to make sure you're giving them a good quality product.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's that's the hardest part. Day in and day out, always being the top of your game.
There's a lot to being a band leader, but that's the most important part. You are the face of your band, so you above all others must represent what your band stands for. Timeliness, professionalism, and an excellent performance being just some of the few things that you can add to that list of values. As we mentioned in the last video, how to keep a gig, it's always helpful for you to choose people in your band that you feel uphold those same values, and that won't embarrass you or misrepresent your product. Now here's Jason to talk about how that respect works both ways.
Whenever I'm a band leader, I often try to treat the side musicians the way that I would want to be treated. So I give them plenty of lead time in terms of like when I can. If I have a gig coming up, I want to give them all the details they need and none of the details they don't need because that can be frustrating at times too, where you're given way too much information and you can't cut through. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've received emails that really, all the information is there, but you have to work to find it in a long email that's talking about all these different kinds of details that you don't need to know, Often what you need to know is, when does this music need to be ready by? Meaning, if there's a rehearsal, sometimes it's before the gig. But that needs to be clearly spelled out. And also, speaking of that, if I'm a band leader and I expect that we're going to rehearse, I let the musicians know that there's a rehearsal involved, and that the pay that I quote them includes, the rehearsal. And I try to treat them, like I try to, as best I can, pay them for their time. So if there's a rehearsal, if I have it in the budget, if there's not enough budget and it doesn't seem like it's worth it, and maybe you can negotiate some things in terms of that. But like, if I'm just calling, like, let's just say there are players that I want to use that I don't really have a relationship with, well, then I want to pay them well for their time. I don't want to try to convince them that this is going to be a great gig for them and that, oh, this music is great, you're going to have a great time, which I've been in that situation too, where people have tried to convince me that, oh, the pay's not great, but the gig's going to be so great, but I don't know them and I don't know anything about the situation, which I would not do that as a band leader. If I want certain players, I would expect to pay them for their time, and come to an agreement as to what seems like an amicable fee,
We're talking to musicians, so you might have to explain what amicable means.
Oh, yeah. Well, a fee that both can agree upon.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Now, as a band leader, you're going to be in charge of pricing your product. And I'm not going to get into specifics because the value depends upon the city, the venue, and what genre you're playing, what level your band is on. But I have my man Michael here to give you some sound advice no matter what level your band is on.
If you build yourself up and you building your brand, know your worth, the right people will pay that. And for everybody else who won't pay that, it's not the right people. So I took a class for small business, and they told about emotional pricing, about not worrying about setting your price so high or setting your price so low, really, that you won't make any money because you're worried about, well, maybe they won't go for this. Maybe they'll go for this, and you're cutting yourself. And it doesn't benefit you at all. It only benefits the other side of the business. And you will never make the type of money that you need to make to be successful as long as you are emotional pricing.
And now some of you might be thinking, well, whoa. Slow down. How do we even find people to be in my band? Well, you just take what we learned in my video, How to Get a Gig, and invert it. Because now you're the one hiring musicians. I'll bring Michael back to elaborate.
When you have a band and you are the manager or the leader of that band, you will go through probably 16 to 32 different types of bands. That's just the way it is. Not everybody will be right for you. I went through 16 different types of bands that I put together, not counting the people that I placed and switched out and everything, but just groups of people that I put together in phases. When it came to put my band together, it took me sampling, listening to people play, over time being like, yeah, that's what I want. Or, I want to get something like that and stuff. And so, I was literally kind of like Pokemon. I'm going out and trying to see who I catch, and, it just happened.
That's what it's all about. Now, when you're finding your band's final form, it's important that you think about what everyone's bringing to the table. Because it's one thing to find like-minded musicians. It's another thing to find like-minded musicians that all bring something unique to the table that add up to more than the sum of their parts. And your job as the band leader is not only to get all those right people in the same room and on the same stage, but also to let them shine. If you know anything about Duke Ellington, you know that this is one of his main strengths, and why his band lasted for 51 years under his leadership and sounded incredible the whole time. I'll let Bernard take it from here.
And so I'm putting that down. I'm like, man, let me write this a little bit more difficult. Let me see who they can play this. Let me see if they can play this line. So working with strengths and weaknesses. So like a lot of times I might do a double. I might do a 6/8 thing within 4. And some people, they get it, some people don't. So it's just strengths and weaknesses within the band. But then when you get to the gig, everybody struggles with, hey, how do I figure out what paying the cats? Nobody wants to talk about the pay, but I try to pay everybody fairly. How much work you put in, that's how much I'm gonna pay you. And I pay evenly across the board. So whatever one person gets, everybody gonna get. Whatever I get paid, you're gonna get paid.
That's what I'm talking about. We're all equal as band members, that's why we get paid the same. But that doesn't mean that everyone is contributing the exact same thing. One person might be the pragmatic one that makes sure wires are tucked away and that the visuals are all perfect. One might be a total ham bone and make sure that there's never a dead moment in the set. One might be rock solid on the form of the songs always. And one might be really good at talking to people, talking to the bride, talking to the groom, talking to the bar owner, making sure everybody's happy. You put all these personalities and strengths together, and you have a unit that is able to be so much more than just 1 or 2 people making music could ever be. However, of course, if you put the wrong personalities together, egos can conflict, and everyone will suffer for that, including the audience. Now, I have no real way I want to segue into this one, so I'll just say that Alex Rui is one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. He's the band leader of a band called the Red Jackets that I'm in, and he gives a very well-rounded answer to the question, how to be a band leader, so I'll just let the man speak his mind on the subject.
I've been a band leader off and on for quite some time. I wasn't necessarily the leader of the band in my high school band, but I did a lot of booking for us and finding opportunities and figuring out what songs to play and what's going to, writing the set list and those kinds of things. So all of those things come into play as being the band leader, but it evolves even more. I mean, depending on how far you want the band to go, it evolves even further into building the brand, figuring out what colors you are, what's our social media look like when you land. If you hear this band and you get excited about it and you go to their Instagram to see more, what do they experience? What do they see? What do they feel when they get there? When they go to the website, same thing. How does all that work? And so as the band leader, in like any job, you can sort of figure out where you want to go. So like for me as the band leader of the Red Jackets, I think about those kinds of things, but I also think about if somebody shoots us an email and says, hey, I want to book that band, what's that experience? They want to bring us into their wedding, like how do we give them fireworks from the get-go where they're already excited about this band? They had excitement through hearing about us from a friend, and they went to the social media and they saw pictures. Now they're more excited. How do we build on that excitement once through that first inquiry that they have about who is this band? Can we book you? You're available for our date. That's this band. It's a different sort of role if you're maybe like, I don't know, like Herbie Hancock's a band leader or so forth. Like I don't imagine Herbie Hancock thinks about a jazz, I don't know, some big jazz festival, wants to bring Herbie Hancock in. I don't know that Herbie thinks about that. He's gotten beyond the point where he has to. He's in position, he has an agent and he has somebody that manages all those kinds of things for him. Sure. So but where I'm at right now as the band leader, I do like being responsible for those things. I like thinking about that journey of a new fan or a new client coming through and wanting to book the band. However, if I'm looking 2 years out from now, my hope is that I've got somebody in position that runs that piece of the process, that piece of the band, so I can stay focused on what songs we're going to do, what medleys are we going to put together, and hey, this last week this didn't go over so well. We kind of lost our energy halfway through this song. Is the song wrong? Was that just a one-off? Do we need to fix something? Do we need to plug something in here? So I'm hopeful that in the next couple of years I'll be able to move out of this role as like the back end side of the band as well. I can just stay focused on the music and the act and those kinds of things.
And finally, here's TC to talk about one of the most important qualities a band leader can possess.
Okay, so patience is definitely at the top of that list, okay, of this list. Because when you're a band leader, forget the music for a second, okay? You're dealing with people, okay? And different personalities and sensitivities and so on and so forth, okay? So you have to understand that, okay? Because, as band leader, you have to make certain decisions, okay? Like one of the things that I always say at either at a meeting or a rehearsal or whatever is, and I always start off with this: what I'm about to say about this progression or this song or this chord or whatever it is, it's not that I'm necessarily right, but because I am the band leader, we have to do it, one way, okay? Now, if you were the band leader, then we'll do it, if whatever you say, then that's how we'll have to do it, right? Just for the sake of, being coherent and for unity and for the product to go off as best as, as I can make it go. So dealing with people, that's the biggest challenge. And then scheduling, like everybody has lives outside of your project, whatever that project may be at the time, like case in point, like this, when I was doing the Melba Moore show, for instance, I hired 4 vocalists, okay, plus plus we were a 4-piece band, okay, so that's 8 people, okay, and trying to schedule 8 people, for whatever, it's very difficult because this person comes from over here, this person has to work until this time, this person has to do this and that, because this is not their, back to your other question, if they're not professional musicians, then they have other things to do to make their living before they can come and do this thing. Okay, so it's the personalities, and then the scheduling of people's time and being respectful of people's time and that sort of thing. Those are the two big pieces of that puzzle for me, you know. But then you get down to the music. Then you get to that, and as a band leader, you know, you're gonna do things the way you see fit. I mean, that's why you're the band leader. They put you in this position to do things the way you see it. Now, is it the best way? You know, probably not. You know, there's always a better way to do something. You know, there's always another way to do something, whether it's better or just a different way. But whatever that is, you're in that position, so you have to make those decisions. You know.
And so if you offer patience to your band members, they'll offer it right back. And that's huge, because we're all going to make mistakes in this music thing. And ask any business person, they'll tell you that no one is good at managing. And it's not a matter of learning management at a school or college or anything. It's just a matter of doing it and trying different things. And letting respect be the number one thing that guides your decision making. That's your North Star. And allow me to give you one more bonus tip from my man Alex that will save you a lot of time and heartache.
When people ask you for your price on things, buy yourself time by saying, hey, shoot me a message, tell me a little bit more about your event. And then I'll be happy to price out whatever that package is. So you want to make sure you collect all the details of the event before you assign yourself a number that they're going to be stuck to. So that's the idea.
Right on. Y'all, thank you so much for watching. A ginormous thank you to my interviewees. This was a topic I knew very little about. So in this video, even more than all the other videos, I needed the street smarts, I needed the real experience. And so I appreciate it, y'all. Thank you. I will see y'all next Monday. And don't forget, the funk don't quit.